Sometimes it's the professionals. Welcome back to the channel where we are in the middle of the transition from to education and is throughout the living spaces to the modern style and enjoy minimalism. This band here used to be a wall that has now been pushed back into the living room area to accommodate several cabinets. The cabinets were designed fans because they sit above a section of baseball hit. Here I'm finishing off adding section of a structural wall that we are working around. As usual, I mess up and set the cabinet back too far, and I'm now eating up time and energy to get back on track. Fortunately, I have been blessed with the wonderful curves of strength and flexibility which come in handy as a form of mistake correction. So thank goodness I'm fit. Speaking of words, maybe the word fit comes from being able to fit in tight spaces such as this that the one cabinet which make for a good higher place from bad guys who try to have a premature effect on your health. Come to think of it, maybe what fit really means is to live longer. Time to work out. This cabinet bag was in the last motor with the nine sides from the usual one step forward to the step back routine. And now it's time for the really fun part. We make our own cabinet bags in order to have a slightly higher than average countertop, so we went with 2 by 8 for the bags. After looking into many different options, we ended up going with IKEA's section line of cabinets with rear pieces touring and IKEA kitchen style. The quality of these are decent and they are easy to put together. Pricing was a big plus as well as an attractive €25 retail. The styles of the kitchen project were probably my favorite because everything was easy to build and I got to move around plenty and conform my body into different positions without getting dirty. There were some trigger bars here and there, especially when it came to leveling the tops of the cabinets. We recommended by the local countertop manufacturer to have a definition of less than 1/60 of an inch. I had to redo some sections more than once, and most of the sections more than twice. If I were able to do this as a living, I would call the business measured twice, count twice. Thumbs up. Ha! The blog. I originally was going to pick everything up myself because I did not want to deal with a delivery service. We ended up going with anywhere because in-house I get responsible for any missing or damaged items. Even though I gave explicit instructions to both IKEA and the logistics company, the first 2 delivery attempts were unsuccessful, probably because the driver gaps throughout the car instead of texting or emailing me to see if I was home. After everything finally arrived, a couple of weeks later, I took inventory and noticed some missing items, which I get to carry right away. Also, at the damaged items were replaced was going around to putting everything together almost a year later, even though it was convenient to have I get responsible for any missing items. Happened to look out the window every 5 minutes, and the lack of proper contact with the logistics company was such a massive inconvenience that I would probably do the delivery myself if I were to do this again. The cabinet authorized the labs was a hack I came up with in order to turn what would have otherwise been a blind called the cabinet into a functional one that is now accessible from the tiny room side of the space. We were fortunate to have a really good fitness carpenter who did that beyond my capability than even the central contractors William had trouble with. He spent a lot of time on the baseboards and with the trim, as well as wall corners and other areas. He came up with a way to make the baseboard heat cover removable from inside the cabinet with concealed bolts. It was interesting to see how they took the measurements for the countertop and how it was all put together seamlessly. We worked with a product called Wilson Art, which is very similar to Korean. It was installed to look flush with the cabinets but has a very slight overhang. The waterfall adds a design element that helps to make the space even more modern. Now that the appliances are in place, we can finally invite the folks over after being without the kitchen for 3 years. Thanks to my mom and dad and Diana for making all this possible. Let's finish this fast together.